You're going to make introductions.
Yeah, I'll just do a quick introduction here. Thanks, Michelle. Yeah, welcome everybody to Coffee and Communications. I'm excited to introduce Dale Bertrand today. I was really taken by his talk at the conference back in November, and so I'm excited to introduce for his talk on how healthcare SEO best practices need to change in the age of AI. And then I have a few quick announcements, and then I'm going to just pass it over to Dale really quickly. So first of all, welcome. And if you're not already, I wanted to just invite everybody to become a CHPRMS member. It's $65 a year. It comes with a free year-round education of offerings. And you get access to great, the member database. There's a really great community here built at CHPRMS. So it comes with all these great networking opportunities, educational opportunities like what we're experiencing today, and then discounted conference registration. So I highly recommend everybody attend the conference. It's been really rewarding for us, and it's a great group of people. So if you're interested in that, it's just chprms.org/membership for more information. If you're interested in volunteering, we would always love more support on the committees. I actually just recently joined the Membership and Education Committee, and it's been great so far. So if you're interested in that, or if you have any questions about that, you can visit this link, chprms.org/structure bylaws, which actually has areas where you can reach out specifically to folks. And then, of course, follow us on social at CHPRMS. The other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about is just save the date for the fall conference. It's going to be in Asheville this year. So we're heading back to Asheville. It's November 19th to 21st. And what's great about this year is we're going to be returning to the Grove Park Inn, which is a really special spot. It's up in the hills. It's upscale, so it's got this amazing architecture. And kind of this rustic stone feel to it. So highly recommend everybody come out there. It's going to have a lot of great talks as always, and a lot of great people to meet, in the Carolinas and beyond. So with that, I'll pass it over back to Dale. Dale, if you want to start sharing, take it away.
Yes. So thank you for the introduction. I'm going to start sharing, and also thank you for the reminder that I should start sharing, because I thought I was sharing because I was absent-minded. Now, can everybody see my screen? You guys can hear me, see me, and see my screen, and everything's good? All right. So we are good to go. I'm excited to be here. So thank you for the invitation to talk about SEO. So I've been doing SEO for a long time. So 20 years now doing SEO, and it's constantly changing. But what's happened recently in the last year or two, 1 or 2 years, has been a lot of change with SEO. And for me, I'll be perfectly honest, I was getting a little bored with SEO, let's say a few years ago, and I was considering a career, a different direction in my career, because I felt like I had done a lot with it. I had learned how to do SEO. I was an expert. I was doing a lot of teaching, but then it started changing so quickly that it really started to capture my attention. And what's going on? Obviously, we're all aware of AI, which is the technology that search engines are based on, and we have these new generative AI platforms that are changing the way people search. But in addition to that, our customers that we're going after are changing the way that they search for information about our services. So that changes a lot. We end up having people searching on Google, but not clicking. So we're publishing the educational content, blog articles that we used to publish for a long time, maybe FAQs on our website about our services, but that content is just training data for the AI going forward. It's not landing pages like it used to be that attracted people who are interested in our services and actually led to real patient acquisition or customer acquisition or real new revenue that we needed for our businesses. So that's a big change, and that's exciting to try to figure out what that actually means for marketing and SEO, and that's what I'm going to go into today. Some of what we're doing, and the hint around some of what we're doing is creating content that Google's AI and other AI engines cannot summarize, because when we're creating, like, traditional blog articles for SEO, like we've done for more than a decade now, we're really just creating training data for AI going forward. Now, before I jump into things, it's important for me to say that the changes I'm talking about in 2025 are really coming towards the tail end of 2025. Like right now, you guys will look at your analytics and your websites and say, Dale, like what we've been doing for the last several years is still working. And I totally get that. But we all know change is coming, and we all know that we need to skate to where the puck is going. So that's the reason why I'm talking about the strategies that we're putting together and starting to implement now for what is coming in search. So hi, my name is Dale Bertrand. I'll do a little bit more of an intro to myself when I get to my bio slide, which is right here. Who knew that was going to be next? So I have a background in technology and marketing. So I studied AI in grad school. That's how I got into AI. So I was doing AI 2 decades before ChatGPT. When I was working as an engineer before I switched over to marketing, I built a supercomputer for the NSA. So I've got a pretty darn technical background. I've been working for 15 years in digital marketing strategy. I run my agency. My agency is Fire and Spark. We only do SEO, so we do not pretend to be world-class at anything other than SEO. And we have a bunch of clients, and all of them have logos. You might recognize some of their logos. And my agency, we're 25 people in Boston. We only do SEO, as I have said. So SEO is changing. Let's talk a little bit about it. These are the founders of Google. And when they created the first version of their search engine at Google, they were in grad school. And because they were in grad school, they were keenly aware of how academic scholars are evaluated. Academic scholars are evaluated in part based on the citations that they have to their papers. So if you're a scholar doing research and you're writing papers, and other scholars are also writing papers, but they're listing you in the citations, that means that you and your work and your papers are influential for other scholars in your field. So that means that you are influential and your papers should be more highly regarded. Now, what does this mean for the website and search algorithms and all of that? What the Google founders figured out is that on the web, you don't have long lists of citations at the end of every article, but you do have clickable links. So if you have a website or a brand or a page, a piece of content, and it has a lot of links pointing to it from other websites, maybe the New York Times, maybe the Washington Post, then those are like votes of confidence. And that means that you should rank up higher. And what this is called is the PageRank algorithm. This is that algorithm that these guys worked on at Stanford when they were working on their PhDs. That is how they made their billions of dollars. So that is the PageRank algorithm. And what I just described using the link structure of the webs, links pointing to your website and your pages to get higher rankings, that is basically a rules-based algorithm. And as marketers, and this is what I did for many, many years, if you understand how the rules-based algorithm works, then you can apply those rules and strategies around those rules, things like getting more backlinks, putting keywords in your content, optimizing for keywords. And then you get the traffic that you want and the visibility you want in Google search engine because you understand how their algorithm works and you have a checklist of strategies that work well with that algorithm. Now, the difference of what's changed is that now Google's algorithm is based on AI. It's not a rules-based algorithm. With a rules-based algorithm, you have engineers at Google making the rules and building the algorithm. With an AI-based algorithm, you have an AI model that is learning the rules and coming up with the rules on the fly, changing the rules sometimes on a daily basis, making different rules for different searches, different keywords, different types of keywords based on what it's learning, looking at the web, looking at the way people are searching, and also looking at what people are clicking on when they're searching. That's what the AI is doing. So for us as marketers, what are the rules? What are the strategies? Where's that checklist that tells us what to do? It's much harder to do SEO for an AI algorithm. So instead, what we have to understand is, what is the AI algorithm trying to accomplish? What is its goal? And how is it trained? And that's different from understanding what the rules are. Because to be honest, even the engineers at Google don't understand what the rules are that the AI is coming up with, but they do understand the goals that they're giving the AI. So what this comes down to is, like, in addition to the AI algorithms, Google is adding a whole new layer on top of its AI ranking system, which is these AI overviews that appear at the top of the page. They can answer like really important questions like, who's Jeff Bezos dating? But you'll get a direct answer with some source links rather than what I would consider a research project. Because with traditional Google, you get 10 pages that you go to. And basically what Google's telling you is, here's 10 websites you can look at. Now you go do the research. With the AI overviews, Google's trying to give you the answer. Sometimes the answer is wrong. Sometimes AI hallucinates. But still, like, the customers we're going after, they're going to still use the AI overviews and other generative AI search platforms to find the information that they're looking for. They're going to use it because they're lazy, because they're human, because they would rather get a direct answer that might be wrong than to get a research project in the form of 10 websites that they have to sift through and find the answer themselves. That's the harsh reality that we have to deal with as marketers. That means over the course of the next year or two, the patients, customers that we're looking for, that we're going after with our SEO content, they are going to be using generative AI platforms like Google's AI overviews and ChatGPT and Perplexity and these other platforms. Now, here's another example, ointment without bastard. This is an actual search that I did, and I took a picture for my slides. But you're getting your direct answer with your sources. Now, one of the issues is that the traditional results that we've all been optimizing for get pushed down the page, but because the AI generated overview is taking up more space. This is one of the reasons that we're getting less clicks. We're getting less clicks because we have less visibility for some searches that are informational, searches that trigger one of these AI overviews. But another reason why we're getting less clicks is because our people who are searching that we'll be going after are getting an answer, and they don't have to come to our website to get the answer. They don't have to come to the educational content that we've written about specific services or treatments or medications or diagnoses or anything like that. Basically, the AI is using the information that we publish about all that stuff to train on and then giving the answer directly. So search behavior is changing. And one way to think about this is, like, I'm old enough where I used to use the yellow pages. And I'm sure there are other folks on here who will admit that you might be as old as I am. And the way the yellow pages taught me how to search was if I was looking for a photographer, I would go to the photography section. I would get some phone numbers. I don't know what. Oh, that is wonderful. My computer screen switched over for some reason. I would get some phone numbers for photographers. I would call 10 of them. 2 of them would call me back, and then I would hire one. So that's how the yellow pages taught me to search when I was searching for like a local service. Then Google came around, and Google was better. So with Google, we were taught to search differently. Instead of looking for phone numbers by category in the yellow pages, we learned this keyword query language. So we were querying things like best ice cream Boston or barber near me. And that's not natural language, but it was a query language that worked. That's why we were all happy to learn it. And we got the right results, and it worked for many years. But now we have generative AI search engines like ChatGPT and Google's AI overviews. And what they're allowing us to do is to search in a much more natural way. If I'm going to Seattle with my family, I might go to ChatGPT or Google's AI overviews, and I might type in something like, help me find a restaurant in Seattle for lunch with one of my best clients who happens to be lactose intolerant, and I want to make sure it's within walking distance of our hotel. And that's just much more natural. And the type of conversation I would want to have around looking for that restaurant would be the type of conversation that I would have with a friend, maybe a friend who lives in Seattle or is an expert in restaurants in Seattle, or a trusted expert, maybe like a trusted travel agent. Like that's what I want that natural conversation to feel like, not Google query language, not just yellow pages, look up a category and find some phone numbers. And that's what this technology allows our customers, our patients to do when they're looking for information. So you guys might be familiar with the inbound marketing playbook. HubSpot popularized inbound marketing, and basically the way inbound marketing works with traditional search, because the two go together, inbound marketing and traditional search. You publish blog articles, educational content, and when your target audience is in the awareness stage where they've got a problem, they don't know what the solution might be, they might be looking for a specialist. I was looking for a neurology specialist when I had migraines, so I was just looking for information about migraines. So they would come to your website, they would find that information. Then you would hit them up with maybe email or retargeting ads for inbound marketing, and eventually send them to a sales page. Maybe they book an appointment, maybe they get on the phone, they dial a phone number, but that's how you get them to convert at the end of the day. Now with generative AI search, it's different, because with generative AI search, at that awareness stage, like when I had migraines and I was looking for information, you're going to get that information, or your patients, your customers will get that information directly from Google, from the AI overviews. They're not going to click to your website. Google's not even going to say thank you for writing all that information about migraines on your website that Google trained its AI on. Then when they, and I'm going to use myself as an example, when I figured out, oh, for migraines, you should go see a neurologist. I better start looking for like a neurologist near me. Then that's more mid-funnel content. That's not information about my symptoms that I'm looking for in the awareness phase. That's me looking specifically to compare neurologists, figure out which one's in network with my health plan, which one's closest to me. That's mid-funnel content. Then from there, drive them to what I'm calling the sales page, which would be Dale, book an appointment, or in my case, talk to my primary care doctor to get a referral, and then book the appointment on the website. But the real lesson here is that we need to be focused on this mid-funnel content. People who are in the middle of their journey, not in the awareness stage going forward. Now, as I said before, SEO is changing. That's why we're having this conversation today. But the traditional inbound marketing playbook, like that educational content that we've all been writing, it still works today. Like if you were to look at your analytics, yeah, you're still getting traffic. So this traditional funnel at the top of my diagram here is still working. I get that, but we need to skate where the puck is going, understand that search technology is changing, search behavior among the audience that we're going after is changing. So we need to start thinking about how to change the type of content we're creating. So it's really switching from these educational blog articles or FAQs to this mid-funnel content where we might have individual pages about different physicians in the different specialties, or comparisons of different treatment options or different services. And that's what we're calling mid-funnel content. And we want it to be the type of mid-funnel content that Google's AI can't summarize. So that would be video or interactive content, like an interactive widget, or we built some tools for some of our clients that were helping visitors understand if the procedure would be covered under their insurance, which is like an interactive tool, and that's something Google's AI can't summarize. And in addition to that, data-driven content. People think data-driven content means a blog article with some numbers in it. That is not data-driven content. Data-driven content is a short article with a database behind it, so that people can find information about their insurance, or find the doctor they're looking for, or find the information about treatments or medications or whatever it is that they're looking for out of a database. And the reason why that's important is because that is content that Google's AI cannot summarize, and it's mid-funnel content. The good thing about this mid-funnel content is that it attracts visitors that are much more likely to convert, that are more likely to book an appointment or dial a number if they have some more questions, something like that, because they have higher intent. If you think about it, the vast majority of people in the awareness stage, like somebody like me who was having migraines, many of them are just going to buy some Tylenol, even after they read your educational content that you put up there. But if they land on your mid-funnel content in the consideration phase, they have more intent to basically engage with a service provider, and that higher intent traffic is more likely to convert and help you hit your goals in terms of patient acquisition and revenue at the end of the day. So in healthcare, we have specific challenges. I'm going to go through these quickly so that we have time for questions, and then I also want to make sure that everybody gets the slides afterwards. But Google's changing the rules, as I just talked about. You want to make sure you have organizational buy-in. When you're creating this mid-funnel content, we all know that the more subject matter experts in-house we have access to, and then we want to have buy-in from the technical folks and higher ups in our organization, the easier it will be to basically pivot from blog articles to mid-funnel content. And then also Google has a really high bar for medical content, and then actually writing the content and then publishing consistently is a challenge. I'm going to talk about these things. So getting stakeholder buy-in. So we want to make sure that we can work with subject matter experts. Maybe they're physicians, maybe they're nurses or PAs or something like that at our organizations. And the more you can get their cooperation, the better. But also we want to make sure we're getting cooperation from whoever manages the website, PR team, developers, lawyers, content writers, finance, whoever it is that you need in your organization. But remembering that SEO, especially targeting these generative AI search engines, getting the right type of content up there, interactive content like video content that Google's AI can't summarize, getting that type of content developed and published is a team effort. It's no longer just like a writer in a back room churning out blog articles. So we also want to make sure that we have support from C-suite executives, and really how we get that is make sure that we're aware of our leadership team at our organization, at your organization. What do they care about? What are the 2025 initiatives that they care about? What are the Q1, Q2 initiatives that they care about? And tying SEO into that so that you can get budget and buy-in. Sometimes I like to point to a competitor. Every facility has a competitor down the street that your executives are looking at. And if you can look in and see what they're doing, that might be a good way to get some buy-in. And then make sure that you are facilitating education at all levels. As you are learning how SEO is changing and the type of content you need to create, make sure you're communicating with all of those people on my previous slide so that they understand what you need from them and they understand the value when they are to deliver and cooperate and give you a little bit of their precious time. Super important. And in terms of the high bar for medical content, Google wants medical content written by competent medical professionals, not really written by like copywriters or even medical writers. So what we do is we make sure at the very least we're interviewing physicians or PAs or nurses, whoever we can get our hands on. We like to start that by interviewing, by doing video. Anytime you can do video in person or over Zoom as the starting point for the content you're creating, that'll be better. You might use the video, just use a transcript to create content, or you could actually use the video for marketing content, which would be amazing. We nowadays, like, video is important, so we start there. But just figuring out who you have access to. We all know that it's very hard to get access to physicians. Maybe your organization has some collaborations with some research organizations, maybe universities. That's a great way. You might get some researchers at the universities to participate. See if you could set up a 20-minute Zoom call and just pick their brain. That's like the easiest way to start. Sometimes what they'll do is they'll recommend that one of the students talk to you, which is fine too. You're just trying to figure out how you can get that SME information. And we always want to make sure that Google knows our content is written by experts. So when we publish the content, we're putting the experts' names in the either by box or reviewed by box, which is another trick. Like if you're writing the content or you're having a medical writer write the content, then don't put a byline on it. Put a reviewed by line on it. So then you're having your in-house experts review it, and they can do that really quickly. And then you can use their name on it with the letters after their name, their board certifications, mention any academic papers, any research they've been involved in, and where they go to school, like all of that, because Google wants to see that your content is written by experts. Oh, and then I want to make sure everybody gets the slides, and I think the host of this event will distribute the slides. But if you guys have your phone handy, you can grab the slides with this QR code or email me directly. What I want to add to the previous slide around creating content is that, as you all know, for SEO content, we used to do a lot of written content. We used to do a lot of blog articles, a lot of educational pieces. And what that was when we were working with SMEs, we would interview them and write articles, or we would sometimes ask our SMEs to write articles. But it's really hard to get subject matter experts to write anything. Nowadays, we're starting with video because video is it's more discoverable. You can put it up on YouTube. You can put it on pages on your website. It's more likely to get shown in traditional Google searches and on video search engines like YouTube. So we love starting with video. It's also easy to repurpose video into the other forms of content, like the blog articles and educational content pieces. We still create those, but those aren't the most important pieces of our content strategy anymore. But sometimes you can just repurpose other things that we're doing into that. So make sure you grab my slides. If you didn't get them, definitely email me. I'm going to go through this quickly, but I've already talked about a number of the different types of content, my content recipes that we're building for 2025. One thing we always like to think about is, like, does it make sense for us to do content around locations? That would be local content. Maybe your facility has multiple locations, multiple treatment centers, and then specific conditions and treatments and medications and symptoms and side effects and services that you offer. Like, there's different types of content that we can create. Now, some of this content, like let's say Q&A content, is educational content where you run into that danger where you're just training Google's AI. But you can do it in a way that is more interactive. Imagine if you had a database of Q&A content. Maybe you already have an FAQ with a lot of Q&A content, or you could scrape it from some of the clients I work with have like customer service where they can scrape Q&A. Then you could put that into a database. Now it's database-driven content with an interactive form on the front end, maybe even a fancy AI chatbot. And now it's interactive content that Google can't summarize, which would be amazing. But thinking through these different types of content and what makes sense for your organization, your priorities, the types of services and treatments that you're promoting for your organization, and the number of locations you have, all of that. We do location pages. Like I said, maybe you're in multiple cities, but doing one for each location and making sure that it's highly customized for that location, because there are differences in location. There are different providers in the different locations, different services, different treatments offered, different parking situations even. Just make sure that they're different. It's not just like, in this case with the client I worked with, it wasn't just Suboxone doctors in Massachusetts and then the same information on the South Carolina page too. And then Q&A content, as I've said, the more interactive you can make it, like It used to be that we would just add a big FAQ to a website, but now we want to add a layer on top of that to add value so that it's not just training data for AI. And then comparison content does well. I think comparison content is special because it's mid-funnel content. If people are comparing medications or treatment options, then they're more likely to click when they're in that middle funnel, high intent, or even bottom of the funnel. They're ready to book an appointment, but they're still kind of deciding between locations or medications or treatment options or whatever it is. So we do a lot of comparison content, and we will continue to do that. We'll continue to do, like I said before, make it a little more interactive than we have in the past in response to AI search. And then service pages, you guys will offer like a number of different services. So we want to have pages for each of those services. It's likely that you're offering services at specific locations. So now, in that case, what we would do is have a page for each service for each location, depending on what that means for you, right? Like we have a client that offers like mental health services in 5 different locations in Florida, for example, and they offer 2 specific services. So that's 5 locations, 2 services. So that's 10 different pages, because each page will be service in city, the location. And the thing you have to be careful for is like some organizations offer many services. So we wouldn't want to have thousands of these, but it really depends on what makes sense. What I would do is I would look at your most popular services that are most searched for, or the ones you're trying to promote, and build out pages that are specific to that service in that location, and have real information on the pages that is very helpful to somebody who lives in that location that wants that specific service, as to why they should use your services at your location. And then we have these in-depth articles. Now, I just said a lot about how we're doing less and less articles because we don't want to just train Google's AI and not get any clicks. But we do believe that if you can create these in-depth articles with tables of contents, interactive elements, forms where people can query a database where they might find information about the medications related to the disorder, or something like that, that you can still create content in the form of comprehensive articles that is mid-funnel content that Google can't summarize, that can still get you clicks. It's just not going to be traditional blog articles. I just want to point that out. These articles, some of them that we're building, will have like a chat interface in there, because everybody's thinking about different ways to embed AI chat into what they're doing. But that's really the next generation. And then the other thing we're doing is, like, you can, as a marketer, you can use AI to create interactive widgets that you used to need a developer for. Now, I don't want to say anything bad about developers, because I used to be a developer. I used to be a programmer. I used to be a coder. I used to build those widgets like mortgage calculators and things like that on websites. But even though I used to be a developer, I still want to spend as little time as possible talking to developers. I love the fact that even though I know how to write code, I can go to an AI tool like ChatGPT and tell it to create a widget for a web page where, and that widget might have 4 inputs, like, where are you located? What medication are you interested in? What insurance do you have? And then you click a button and it tells you what the treatment is likely to cost, with a wide range, right? Because we don't want to commit. And then maybe it'll tell you if your insurance might cover it, or who you need to call to figure out if you need to cover it, or at the very least, like, whether you might need a referral from your primary before you, things like that. Like, but these are widgets that I can create with ChatGPT. It gives me an embed that I just put on the HTML page, and I never have to talk to a developer. So it makes my life better. And I am a developer, so I guess I don't have to talk to myself anymore. So I don't need these mental health services that I'm talking about. So updating existing content, I've got this in here. I'm going to go through it quickly so we have time for Q&A. But really what's going on is, if you work at an organization that has a lot of content that's already been published on your website, we're working with brands that have content that they've been working on for years on their website. We're spending more time, let's say 80% of our time, updating their existing content, not creating new content. And we're updating it in the ways that I'm talking about. Make it more interactive, add videos to it, add subject matter experts with letters after the names, all that sort of stuff, to their existing content. That's much more efficient than trying to create brand new when you're working at an organization that has a bunch of content they've already published over the years. But you have to be careful because content decay is real. This is poisonivy.org. They lost almost all their traffic. Then they called me and they said, Dale, what's going on? Now I use them as an example in my slides. They used to have almost 500,000 visitors a month, which is insane. But they lost almost all their traffic because they didn't update it. And people forget that content decays, it gets stale. Google's looking for fresh content. Google's looking for content that you keep up to date with the latest medical practices and breakthroughs and whatever that is. Now, in some spaces, there are new developments, and in other spaces, there aren't. But still, you need to try and think about really what Google's AI is doing is Google's AI knows for every search, every query, if fresh content matters. And if fresh content matters, then Google's going to look for up-to-date content. So when you're reviewing like your best performing content, I'm going to go quickly through this. This slide is really just about like figure out what best performing means to you. Does it mean like phone calls or booking appointments or patient acquisition or revenue or traffic, whatever that means to you? But when we're updating content, we're adding trust factors like I mentioned before, letters after people's names. You'll notice that this is not an author by box. This is a reviewed by box. Because one of the tricks is we'll have a medical writer write a bunch of content, and then we'll have an MD or a PhD review for do a medical review, and then we don't put an author by box, we put a reviewed by box, and we'll pay a ridiculously high hourly rate for an MD or a PhD to review a bunch of content all at the same time. But what we're really paying for, don't tell them this. This is recorded, but just still don't tell anybody. But what we're really paying for is their picture, their credentials, the reviewed by box where we mentioned the research they did, the school they went to, because that's what Google wants to see. We're not just paying them to do that review. And then we're adding like sources to content. The thing here that I skipped over is when you're updating existing content, start with your best performing content. We're not doing this for everything. We're doing this for starting with pages that are already doing well. And we know that we can get an extra 10, 20% out of these pages if we follow, like add trust factors, update them, add new developments, that sort of thing. The other thing that I want to mention is that instead of educational content about treatments and medications, whatever we used to do, if you're writing content with a point of view, that's another way around Google summarization. And that stuff, like these are just examples, how my multicultural identity shapes my perspective as a leader, or it's time to take Medicare Advantage off the market, or neurodiversity in marketing, how my dyslexia helps me as a CMO. This is content with a strong point of view, not what I would call like generic educational content that Google's just going to use to train its AI. So we're also headed down this path. Strong point of view, strong personality, that type of content also does well. A great example of this is like an influencer on YouTube. Like if you follow any influencers on YouTube, that is personality driven, opinion driven content that's quite unique, and Google's AI can't summarize that. It's a specific opinion. And then dates matter. When I say update, Google's trying to figure out how fresh content is. And what Google's doing is looking for dates. Now, sometimes there are dates in URLs, sometimes there's dates on the page. That's what Google's looking for. But there's a big caveat to that. You could imagine as a marketer that the only thing you do to update your content is you change the date. Google's not that stupid. In addition to looking at the dates on your pages, Google is inferring a date using AI. And what I mean by that is, imagine if you had an article that was written about the Paris Summer Olympics. If that article, if there was no dates on that article, Google still needs to figure out a date. If you write about in that article the Paris Olympics in the past tense, then Google would infer that the article must have been published after the date of the Olympics. If the article writes about the Olympics in the future tense, then Google's AI will infer, oh, well, this article must have been written before the date of the Olympics. So Google trusts its inferred date more than the date that you just like could game and update on the page. So why this is important is when you go back and look at the content you've already published, and you add new developments, like a new treatment or a new research study that was just published related to it, that is basically triggering Google's AI to update its inferred date, and its inferred date related to the freshness of your content. That is the type of thing that we're aiming for when we're updating our existing content. Like I said, start with your best performing content, the content that's already doing well for you, when you're adding new developments to convince Google that it's fresh. And change the date on the page. It's just that Google's pretty smart. Its AI is not only going to look at the date on the page, it's also going to look at the content itself to decide whether it can trust the data on the page. Last thing I'm going to cover here, because I want to make sure we have time for questions. This is Allie, and Allie is not her real name, and this is not her real photo, but she's a content writer that we hired at our agency several years back. She still writes for us. The reason why we hired her is because she's really good at what she does, and that's why we kept her around for a while. Now, her skill set is pitching ideas and storytelling and writing and editing and proofreading. Allie is awesome. There is a problem, though. The problem is that Allie's skill set as a writer is no longer exactly the skill set that we need. If you think about everything I just talked about, updating content, building content that is more interactive, doing video, content that Google's AI can't summarize, I love working with Allie, but Allie is no longer the right resource for that type of content campaign. So we recently hired Erica. Erica is not her real name, and this is not her real photo, but she has a different skill set. That skill set is around crafting calls to actions, and so to get people to like convert on the content. And then doing visual design, because we're also making our content more visual. Doing data analysis. Remember, we love data-driven content with a database behind it. And somebody needs to research that data, find that data, collect that data, reach out to people who have the data, might give it to us. Somebody needs to find that data. A lot of the data is available through government agencies or maybe like state regulatory agencies. That's where we get a lot of the data. Like, it's free, but you got to find it online. That is not Allie's skill set, but that is Erica's skill set. And then also doing competitor research. So that facility down the street, what are they doing? How are they building their content? Where are they getting their data from? And then implementing our SEO strategy, not just writing. So the reason why I love to like put up these two skill sets between Allie and Erica and really just show this juxtaposition is because for those of us who are on this call who are doing marketing, there's a similar change that we all need to make to our skill sets to basically create the type of content that we need going into 2025 and then 2026, planning for the next year or two of what we need to be doing for SEO. More video, more interactive content, more data, using AI to create these interactive widgets that we don't need developers for. Now, when I say it needs to be more interactive or it needs to be video, a lot of people cringe because it's like, oh crap, like I gotta learn all that. But it really is easier than ever. Like, you don't need a developer. You can use ChatGPT for a lot of this stuff, even the database-driven stuff. As a marketer, I have a whole workshop I do on that. Maybe that's the next webinar we'll do. We'll talk about that. And then for video, one of the things I'm doing is recording everything I can, like the session today, and using Opus, which is an AI tool that'll make short videos for you. So I'm not using a full-blown production team, at least for what I'm doing. I know plenty of my clients are, especially when they're doing those like physician videos that go on websites. But we're also not paying a video editor anymore. And I had a contract video editor on our payroll for a long time that we were using, but we're using Opus now for shorts for the most part. But things change. So yes, this is new stuff to learn, but also yes, there are new tools that will help us and make it so that we don't need a team of professionals to do data-driven content and video and software development around this stuff and all of that. The world really is changing around all of these things. So I am going to, oh, well, I guess I'll show you. This is just an example of one of the tools I created, an example of creating a tool with ChatGPT or Claude or Google's Gemini, whatever you want to use. The tool that I wanted to create was for my website. I run an SEO agency. So the tool is, how much should SEO cost? And we've done this. We did this for a weight loss clinic we work with around which weight loss, Wegovy or other medications are like, what's the right medication for me? Like there's a million different ways that you as a creative marketer could build one of these widgets. But I went to ChatGPT and I gave a prompt. I said, and the prompt was, create an HTML page that contains an interactive tool with an intuitive layout and a light blue color scheme. And here are the inputs: the number of websites, the level of competition, the geography, the current domain authority. Because remember, mine is about SEO. And then what it's not showing is I gave it a formula to calculate the monthly SEO cost, and it gave me this widget that I have up on my website. How much should my SEO cost? And people like using this. But there's just a million different ways that you can do this. And I didn't need a developer. I've already talked about this. I promised I was going to take questions in a minute. But old school SEO, it was text only. We were doing keyword targeting. We were publishing a lot of informational, educational content, and we were creating a lot of new content. But the new SEO, we're starting with video whenever we can. We can't always, but we will when we can. And we're doing intent targeting. So we're creating content, targeting people who have the right intent. That's that mid-funnel intent. So not just like maybe not top of funnel intents, like Dale has a migraine and he wants to know if he could just take Advil. It's really that middle of funnel intent where I know what treatment I want, but I don't know where to get it or how much it costs. That's a much higher level of intent that's more likely to convert. And Google recognizes when somebody has that intent that they're looking to make a decision. They're looking to find a facility or treatment options. And then also we're building out mid-funnel content and we're updating existing content as much as possible rather than creating new content when possible, as I said. So, oh, we are at the end here. I thought I was gonna have to skip some slides. It's another QR code. You guys can grab this. We have a worksheet with like just step-by-step how to do a number of the things I'm talking about with existing content to reposition it for Google's AI overviews and for other generative AI platforms and for more visibility in large language models. You can grab that with the QR code. As always, you can hit me up, Dale@fireandspark.com, if you have SEO questions or you want me to look at something and say, hey, Dale, I get what you're saying, but what about our content? What about what we're doing or what we're trying to promote? And then the last thing I'll say is that I publish a bunch on LinkedIn. I try to publish every day on LinkedIn because those ideas and the feedback from those ideas turn into my conference talks. So definitely connect with me on LinkedIn because I'd love to hear your feedback for that type of content. And I did leave some time for questions.
Great. Thanks so much, Dale. We appreciate it. Wow, I learned a lot. So we are starting to get a few questions in the chat. I'll just, we've got one here that says, what's your tool stack and how do you currently integrate AI in your workflows?
So I'm doing a lot. And email me if you want the full list because I've got like 3-hour workshop that I do on this. But I use ChatGPT a lot. I actually think Google's Gemini is better. So I have a paid Gemini account where I use like Gemini 1.5 and Gemini 2.0, but they're all good enough. That's the thing. Like, it doesn't really matter as long as you're using either ChatGPT or Claude or Google's Gemini or like Microsoft's Copilot. Like, they're all good enough at this point. And we are doing some automations that's automating things like creating hooks for my LinkedIn posts or researching people or companies. So we'll do that with a combination of AI assistants. Now you can think of like a custom GPT as an AI assistant. We're all trying to learn how to do that. And then automated workflows in like Zapier or Cassidy or Make.com. Now, I just said a lot. So the advice that I'll give you is if you're just getting started with AI, then choose a tool like ChatGPT is great and start prompting it, using it to do things. The way I would use it is I would ask it, how can you help me to whatever it is you're doing? And really just start there. That's it. Like, you'll learn so much just doing that. What I do is I give ChatGPT my task list every morning. Like this morning, I needed to prep for this webinar, and I'm doing a training this afternoon that I need to prep for. And I needed to send some emails to my team and to some conferences that I'm doing presentations at. So I asked it, how can you help me with my task list? And it gives me some recommendations. Some of them are useful, some of them aren't. I'm always using it when I'm emailing people. I'm always using it to remix content. So that's the way that I would think about it. And then from there, if you're somebody who's already been doing a lot of that, then you want to look into like getting custom GPTs for things you do a lot. Like for me, writing LinkedIn posts. So I'll have a custom GPT that helps me write a LinkedIn post. And then once you've got that down, you want to look at automation in Zapier, Make.com, or Cassidy workflows. But just depends on where you're at in your journey.
Right. Thanks. Okay, so we've got a few additional ones. Should we anticipate an adjustment in website analytics moving forward? It seems like we would have less traffic because we're getting more qualified leads who are already in mid-funnel.
Absolutely. So I should have emphasized this, and I'm sorry that I didn't. The upside is that we expect more qualified traffic to come to our site. The story is less traffic, but better traffic and more patients, more efficient customer acquisition and patient acquisition. So with the strategies that I'm talking about here and the type of content I'm talking about here, you will do better and get better results as a marketer and continue to grow your organic patient acquisition. So this is not a story about like SEO is over. This is a story about like SEO is evolving. And in order for you to keep growing your organic traffic, you need to be doing the right things, because the traffic you get will be better traffic.
Great. And what percent of searches are you seeing being overtaken by AIOs for the healthcare vertical? How do you find topics where you can rank and drive high intent traffic?
So first part of that question, I don't know off the top of my head. The number I do know off the top of my head is that today 60% of searches are zero click. And 10 years ago, it used to be like 20, 30% are zero click. And what we mean by zero click is they're not clicking out to an organic website. They're either not clicking on anything, or they're clicking on an ad, or they're clicking on a Google property. So basically just staying on Google 60% of the time. That's the number I know. I don't know what it is specifically for healthcare. And then what is the second part of that question? I'm sorry.
How do you find topics where you can rank and drive high intent traffic?
So I would focus on the intent. So I'm going to turn that conversation, I'm going to turn that around a little bit, which is instead of being focused on finding topics, you really want to be focused on intents. So a top of funnel intent for me when I had a migraine was like something like, how do you treat migraines? Or is this a migraine? Top of funnel. And the intent there is, and intent to begin with a verb, by the way. Dale wants to learn about migraines. or find information about migraines. That's a top of funnel intent. A middle of the funnel intent is more like find a neurologist or compare neurologists or compare migraine treatments. That's middle of the funnel. And when you look at those two things, the top of funnel intents, like I might just buy Advil. I might literally just go to the store and buy Advil. So those top of funnel intents are less likely to convert. But the middle of the funnel intent that I'm going after is much, much more likely to convert, because now I'm looking for a neurologist. Now I'm trying to find locations and facilities that are near me. And I'm looking at comparing specific treatments. So to answer your question, you asked me about topics. It really starts by identifying those intents. And when you identify the intents to begin with a verb that you're targeting, then finding the topics are much, much easier. In my example, if I'm looking for like finding a neurologist, then topics would be like neurologists in Charleston, South Carolina, or migraine neurologists in Charleston, South Carolina. That's very specific. But I was able to get there by focusing on the intents that I'm targeting. That's the most important thing.
Okay, great. And I know we're almost at time, but I'm going to try and get through a few more of these. How do you create your content? So that's video, QA content, comparison content, to incorporate accessibility, and then how do you incorporate the voice and tone of the company? Is this part of the prompt when you're making content?
So with AI, and so I'll answer this specifically with AI. Yes, we are including a style guide, words not to use, and a target audience. Those are 3 things in our prompts. And I have that, I just paste them in. Like I have a keyboard shortcut, bam, I paste it into everything that I'm doing. But it's really important to have those 3. The shortcut, because you might have that, right? The shortcut would be to go online and find a list of words. I hate the word landscape because Google AI will always say in the SEO landscape, here's what, so I have that's in one of my lists, one of my words that I wanted to never use. And then for the target audience, you could just say, for me, it's like CMOs. And if you were targeting like, could be CMOs at regional hospital networks or something, done. That's enough. But maybe you have like a persona built out. And then for a style guide, maybe you have a long style guide built out, but sometimes when I'm writing for like an online marketing publication or something, I'll say write in the style of Harvard Business Review. Done. But you can choose whatever you like to read, and that's the easy way to do it. But eventually you want to develop kind of just longer ones and then just paste that every time.
Great. I know we're at time here, so I know some people are probably going to drop off. I do have one more question. Dale, do you have one more question?
Yes, of course.
Are you still including written content on a blog post that has a video, or simply using video?
Both, all of the above. So sometimes we are creating video. So let me back up. I think of video assets as like assets that go in my, literally they go in my asset spreadsheet that I have at my agency. And then I'm looking for many, many different ways to use them. So I'll put them on social, I'll put them on LinkedIn, I'll put them on existing pages to enhance pages that might already be doing well, or to help me update existing content. And they will help improve engagement with that existing content. I will also publish them on, it depends on the brand, you know, TikTok, YouTube, whatever makes sense. So we're really doing all of the above. And I would think about creating video assets and then looking at those assets and saying, how can I get the most value out of this particular asset by doing, and you could even like brainstorm a playbook or write down a playbook for your interns so that your interns doing the thinking or something like that.
Great. Thank you so much, Dale. And we are so grateful for you joining us today and sharing all your knowledge. Thanks, everyone else. And yeah, have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for having me, and let's do it again as all this stuff develops, because there will be more to talk about.
Great.
We appreciate you so much, Dale. Thank you.
Thank you.